Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're going to be taking a first look at a game which is coming out on the 30th of March, called The Great War Western Front. We have played this a little bit on the channel before, but this is going to be my first look at the release version of the game. Previously we played the demo, which was available during Steam Next Fest, and we also played some preview builds that the folks at Frontier Foundries, the publisher behind The Great War, allowed us to have access to, but I haven't played the actual full version of the campaign yet or anything close to that yet, so we're going to take a look at that today. Now the game is made by Petroglyph Games. Those are the folks behind Grey Goo. Their first game, I believe, was Star Wars Empire at War, and they have a pedigree that goes back into Westwood Studios, making of the Command and Conquer games. Actually, I think they did the remastered version of that as well a year or two ago. The game has 4 game modes: campaign, campaign, which is what we're going to be looking at, historic battles, which we can just kind of take a quick look at. There's a handful of historical battles that you can fight through. The Battle of Second Ypres, I never know how to pronounce that. Second Battle of Champagne, Battle of Verdun, Battle of the Somme, Second Battle of Passchendaele, and the Battle of Cantigny, which was the first American battle. I don't know if they're planning on adding any additional ones in the future. They're fun little pick up and play battles. But you can see there's 6 of them. We're not going to be doing that today. And then the game has a skirmish mode where you can kind of jump in and create something simple to just jump in and play. You can see there's a couple of different maps here. Then you have certain maps which are designed to be, you know, for an assaulter. One's a balanced one, split control. I don't know what that means. And a couple of different battlefields here, and then you can like change things, you know, what faction are you playing as, what time period in the war, what season, all those kind of things. Then there's multiplayer, where you can play, I believe, a skirmish battle against another human opponent. I don't really know, I haven't tried that yet. There's not really anyone available to play it against at the moment, since I'm playing it the day before it comes out to pre-orders. So we'll have to take a look at that perhaps once we actually have folks playing. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the campaign today and take a look at this. You can see, obviously, there are 3 different campaign options. The tutorial is what we actually played in the previous versions of the campaign on the channel when it was a demo. You can play as the Allies or the Central Powers. I'm kind of tempted to play as the Allies, but maybe we'll do that another time. Why don't we go ahead and play as the Central Powers, which, interestingly enough, I think is just the Germans, because this is a game that only takes place on the Western Front, and so I don't think the Austrians ever make an appearance there, but I could be wrong. Now, the campaign is kind of the same in terms of, like, if you pick either power, you can choose to start in 1914 or 1916. Obviously, 1916 is going to have much more advanced trench positions. It's going to be harder to advance, but you're going to have more advanced technologies like gas and other things like that. 1914, things are going to be very basic. You're going to have to progress through the tech tree from basically the beginning, and so things may be more open on an attack. Like, you won't have as much trenches to deal with, but you're also going to have far more primitive resources to make your attacks with. We're playing as the Central Powers. We're starting in 1914. The national will, which is what determines if you're going to win. If that goes to 0, you lose your willpower to fight. That starts at 700. It's lower in the 1916 period, reflecting casualties and things. Research points, you start at 3 for 1914, because I'm assuming nothing's been invested yet, and then 8,000 gold reserves. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the 1914 campaign and start as the Central Powers. The onset of the war in August 1914 was viewed with confidence by the people of Europe. Few imagined how long or disastrous the Great War could be, and most believed the war was necessary to defend against the might of the oppressor. Many had a sense of patriotism and positivity, and most believed the war would be over within a few months. By December, it had begun to set in that the war would not be over anytime soon. So the 1914 campaign starts in December, so you're not going to be reenacting the
death of the Archduke. Europe is propelled into chaos. Nations honoring treaties and alliances forged years before are now plunged into a conflict they cannot avoid, sparked by a single gunshot. Here on the Western Front, nations draw their battle lines. The Central Powers of Austria-Hungary and Germany now face the combined alliance of France, Britain, and their colonies. The Great War is about to begin.
Melde gehorsamst! Die russische Zweite Armee wurde bei Tannenberg umfassend zurückgeschlagen. Aber ihre Truppen wurden schneller mobilisiert, als wir es erwartet hatten.
Und was ist mit unserem Vormarsch durch Belgien?
Aus Belgien wird erheblicher Widerstand gemeldet und das britische Expeditionsheer ist nunmehr in den Konflikt eingetreten. Unsere Befähigung, die Westfront zu überrennen, wurde ein wenig eingeschränkt. Aber ich bin zuversichtlich, dass...
Paris?
Bei unserem Durchbruch an der Marne erleiden wir schwere Verluste. Unsere Befehlshaber vor Ort sind versprengt. Von Kluck hat sich mit seinem Armeeverband auf das Nordufer der Aisne zurückgezogen und baut dort Stellungen aus, damit wir uns für einen Großangriff auf Frankreich sammeln können.
Russland im Osten, Großbritannien und Frankreich im Westen. Alle graben sich ein. Wir müssen wachsam bleiben.
Thus the Western Front was established. From the fields of Flanders to the borders of Switzerland, the great nations would make their stand. The fate of millions was now in the hands of a few.
Okay, so I paused for a second so we could listen to that intro cinematic. There's also one at the start of the game when you first start it up. But it's clear the game is starting in 1914 for the 1914 campaign. So, and I think this makes sense based on what I've played previously. The game's mechanics don't work terribly well for a war of maneuver, I don't think. It's really about breaking through trenches and sort of pushing more slowly. And so you don't get to redo the Schlieffen plan, which would have been a cool thing to be able to do, but no Schlieffen plan for you. The game is going to jump right into December of 1914, so Germany was surrounded on all sides by powerful enemies. War was declared on Russia, but Germany pushed through Belgium to capture Paris in order to remove Russia's ally and keep the war on one front. Well, it would have been two fronts, at least until France was withdrawn, but neither way. This, however, triggered Britain's defensive alliance with Belgium. Unable to reach the sea to outflank Britain, Germany was forced to dig in. In an unparalleled act of humanity, British and German soldiers agreed to a ceasefire on Christmas Day. Both sides entered into no man's land. Okay, so the Christmas truce. Okay. All right, well, here is the front line, guys. This is a hex-based game on the strategic map, but when you actually do fight battles, you can move on to the tactical map. You can see the map is from basically the border with Switzerland all the way up to the English Channel, which is what you would expect. The 1914 situation includes the I'm gonna need to learn how to pronounce this eventually. The Ypres salient, which you can see here juts out very clearly, and then proceeds sort of on a more, I guess, common or a more logical front line here, except at Verdun where there's another kind of salient here. And then things move south more quickly. You can see the amount of troops that you have ready in a given hex is based on the stack. They almost look like poker chips that are stacked up here on the map. That being said, there is some level of fog of war. So like, I don't have perfect information of what the allies have here. And I believe these different stacks can represent different size and quality of units. So one stack does not necessarily mean that it is more powerful or less powerful than a 2-stack or a 3-stack. It all depends what those stacks are made up of. And so that kind of uses some, there's board games that have similar mechanics to that as well in terms of how they work. You can see our own forces when we click here. You can see them perfectly. So you've got, right here, we don't see anything, but if we click on our own units here at Sarabor, we've got 3 infantry corps. At Morhang, we've got 2. At Metz, we've got 2. I'm guessing the stacks are fairly accurate in terms of intel, at least at this period in time, because we don't have a lot of advanced units because it's still the early war period. But I would be interested in possibly trying to reduce this particular hex. I'm not sure how supply lines work in terms of like, I don't know that attacking this huge stack of British troops here is a great idea, but advancing to Dunkirk, which would expose our own troops on if we could even, we can't even do that. It would be cool to do that if we could. We could perhaps flank them and move in toward Hazebrook and try and get in behind the salient here. But then if they have all these troops here, they'd likely be able to break out. You can see here, you get different events which give you, let's actually take a step back here. So let's take a look at the map or the game. You've got 700 national will for both sides on the top. This is a measure of an alliance's willingness to continue the war. If it's reduced to 0, you lose the war in the game. If we see down here in the lower left, we've got our 8,000 gold and 2,000 supplies. Supplies is very important to your ability to effectively support attacks. Launching artillery barrages, calling in reinforcements, or placing units all consumes supply. And so those are things you have to be mindful of. If we take a look at the purchase menu, this is where you can spend gold for things. Later in the war, you can buy things like tanks with gold, but right now you can just purchase more supply for your global supply because we haven't done much research yet. If we go into the research column here, you can see there's a bunch of different things you can research. You can go down the infantry tech side, the intelligence tech side, logistics, engineering, trench technology, which is obviously going to be important to your ability to defend effectively, and aviation. So there's definitely planes, balloons, observation balloons all play a key role. But let's see here. We've got 3 research points. What should we research? We've already... Oh, shit. Undo. We've already unlocked efficient heavy artillery, which unlocks a stat boost, reduces the cooldowns for all heavy artillery abilities. I'm assuming this is a unique central power thing and the allies have different techs, but I could be wrong on that. That allows us to move further down the tree where we could consume all 3 of our supplies or research points on either timed shells, unlock airburst shot for heavy artillery companies, or we could go with the gas shells, which unlocks a gas artillery, which would be interesting and possibly an early war advantage if we got that researched. But that would also mean not doing other things. So for example, infantry here, increase standard infantry soldier health by 25%. Infantry units die pretty damn easily. And so using a research point on improved helmets to improve our infantry health is probably a sound move and leaves me more techs for other things. So we're going to do that. We're going to do infantry helmets that will give us improved stats. Blast powder increases damage grenade attacks. First aid tent reduces the cost of replenishing soldiers after battle. Improved sights increases standard infantry's rifle range. So those are the next ones down. And then when you get all the way to the end here, you've got gas masks, high efficiency filters, hardened hearts, officers club, and flame warfare. So I'm assuming those are like flamethrowers or whatnot. Meanwhile, on intelligence, regional intel reveals all structures as well as current supply levels of all enemy regions adjacent to the target friendly region. Intel is probably going to be pretty useful in terms of planning our attacks and with resisting enemy attacks. I'm going to go with the storage tent though, because supply depots are really important. Can I? All right. Supply depots are really important because you've got global supply, but not every hex has access to that global supply. You've got to build depots and whatnot so you can pull that forward. So supply depot level 1 increases the region supply pipeline cap to 400. So you saw earlier we have, I think, 2,000 supply in the global, but an individual hex can pull up to 400 of that forward. And then in addition to that, I think we're going to go ahead and unlock... Where's... does this unlock observation balloons? Oh, that just reduces the cost. So we actually... Do we already have observation balloons? Huh. Trench engineering. Unlock the improved firing trench for purchase, upgrade, and field commander's battle. Yep, we're going to do that. I really want... I need... better trenches. If we're gonna withstand the allied attacks on us, we're gonna need that. So that'll consume all 3 of our supply or our research R&D points. Again, we're going with trench engineering, storage tent, and improved helmets. I don't know why these are red. I guess that just means we can't do anything with them. All right, so those are going to be the items we're going to be researching. We have one event here, demoralize them. An army is only as strong as the will of its men. Defeat enough of them, and not only do their replacements hesitate on the battlefield, but their potential replacements hesitate to sign up. So you get different like events or activities or things that pop up, objectives, if you will, that influence different things in the war. So if we defeat 10 French infantry companies, and an infantry company is basically the standard sized infantry unit on the tactical battle maps. If we defeat 10 French infantry companies, we will be rewarded by high command, I'm assuming, or by the Berlin, with 400 additional gold reserves. We have 5 turns to do that. So we got a little bit of time. So strategic priorities in that sense are kind of pulling us to attack the French as opposed to the British. It's interesting right now as well because this is still very early war. The British section of the line is fairly small, basically just north of Arras. That will grow with time, however, as they get more reinforcements. Also worth remembering or being aware of, you don't actually have the ability to purchase infantry units directly. Reinforcements and new units will be raised and will be provided to you. But while you can buy specialist units like air units or other things like that, where direct purchasing of equipment would outfit a unit, you don't actually purchase human beings, if you will, in large infantry units. They show up per history. The other thing worth keeping in mind as well is that every one of these hexes has a star value. In order to take one of these hexes, you have to successfully fight 4 battles and win 4 battles in this hex in order to take the hex. And basically that's to represent how these theaters have defense in depth, multiple lines of trenches. You might take the first few lines in an individual battle, but you're not going to drive all the way from Arras to Amiens by taking one trench line. And so the amount of stars here represents basically the defense level of a given hex, and the ability to hold on there is as opposed to break through. Okay, so that's probably about all we have to say at the moment. Oh, one other thing. Kreuznach is our headquarters, and if this base falls, we lose the war. If the French base at Paris falls, they lose the war. You can also see, as a result of it being our headquarters unit, we have 6 conscript infantry corps, 6 elite infantry corps, and 5 regular infantry corps. And so like it doesn't really, I wish the pop-ups would let me like hover over an individual unit so you could see what this is, what the makeup of this is. But basically conscript infantry are less efficient units. They're weaker corps than elite corps. Elite corps, I believe, have commandos, which are better at assaulting fixed positions. And then you've got regular infantry corps, which just have regular infantry. I don't believe the Allies make use of conscripts, but they have different advantages. Different countries have different sort of specialties and advantages and whatnot. So you can see we've got, what is it? Quite a few corps. We've got 17 corps in reserve right now. It's early war, so manpower is a slightly less pressing issue. And we could deploy those troops wherever we want to. We can also see that Calais has a large number of British reinforcements sitting back there, and Paris has slightly fewer French troops. So the question is, at this point, like, what would we want to do with our turn? Do we want to launch an attack? Do we want to wait and let the Allies do their thing? It's December of 1914. We're not likely going to make any major push on Paris anytime soon. And so I'm tempted to make an attack at Soissons, because you can see here, it does have 4 stars, which means we probably want to attack it. But it looks like it's fairly weak in the sense that there's only 1 or 2 enemy units in this particular hex. We don't have the ability to do much with intelligence. I can't do espionage, sabotage, or theft, or anything like that because I don't have those techs unlocked. I can't even do care packages, counter intel, army intel, or regional intel. I think I can build a supply depot at Lyon, which will support my offensives. So that's an idea. Another option would be to attack at Compiègne. And again, I need to work on pronunciations for this series. Sorry if you're French, please don't be mad at me. Because there's only 1 French unit there, so perhaps that would be an opportunity to attack and push them back. And actually would kind of resume the drive on Paris too. You can see it's directly in line to Paris, and I don't think it would put us in too dicey of a situation from a salient perspective. Alternatively, we could try and drive in at Bar-le-Duc and Saint-Meinhold to isolate Verdun and take that base. Again, I'm not 100% sure if surrounding a hex completely cuts off the supply. I don't know exactly how that works. Lunenville is actually probably the most logical in that it would straighten our line a bit here. We can attack it from 3 sides. Although it's not really like it would be an attack without any real strategic objective. Alternatively, what do we have at Lille? Are these all conscripts? No, they're regular infantry corps. What if we make a move toward Hazebrook or Arras? That would lengthen our front, but it would endanger the salient over here. It's also only a 2 hex defensive position. So let's do that. Let's take the forces at Lille, which is 3 infantry corps, and we're going to make an attack toward Arras. We don't know what the enemy has other than they have 1 corps there. If we do auto-resolve, it does tell us we're going to lose. We are fighting in a blizzard, which means our sight range is considerably reduced. So actually, first things first, let's cancel that. Let's go ahead and build a depot at Lille. I believe that will give us better supplies. So you can see supply pipeline is 400. That's the amount of supply the region can draw from the global supply bank each battle. And then the regional supply is 450, the sum of all supplies carried by the unit. So that's the supplies the troops are carrying basically in their packs or in the caissons for the artillery or what have you. Brussels has a medical tent. That's cool. Hopefully we're never fighting there. All right, so let's launch the attack from Lille toward Arras. That may leave Lille a little bit vulnerable, but I can call in reinforcements from our headquarters if needed. And now with the additional supply, actually the estimated result has gone from loss to stalemate, which won't really help me either. So let's go ahead and fight the battle here. It looks like, yeah, we've got 850 supply total available to us because of the depot that we just built. So it was built instantly. We're going to go ahead and engage in the battle. Rolling Hills probably is good for the defender. Also Blizzard probably also good for the defender. So neither of those are great options. Perhaps a winter attack is ill-advised. We've got a nice little information here about the hex itself. We're going to go fight the, presumably the British, although I suppose the Belgians could be involved. Now, this is one of the other things here. We are on the tactical battle, and you can say like, oh, look at this. It's nice open country. You know, there's towns, villages, things like that, and it doesn't look like there's a lot of things to worry about. No trench lines. That's because it's 1914. So like every trench we build will permanently remain on this map. And so it will kind of have permanent, if you will, fortifications, and sprawling trench lines will sort of evolve over time. It looks like the forward objective for us is Y. Our headquarters is back here. I think if we lose this tent, we lose the battle. But we've got sort of 2 locations here, X and Y on the map. And in order to reduce an enemy star, we have to take B, we have to take the headquarters line, and we have to take A. And it looks like the enemy does have some level of trenches already built on this map, although nothing crazy. It's not like a uniform line left to right. I think B is going to be the most... I think taking B is the right approach. There's still some wood line and terrain for us to cover our advance. Also, A is another potentially vulnerable section. All right. This is, I believe, where a location where reinforcements can come through. So are these just like slit trenches then? Are there basic firing trenches? We can upgrade them to improved firing trenches for 30 supply. Where's our infantry? All right, we've got 60 infantry companies that we can call in. They can only be placed in trenches at the start of a battle. We'll put 2 on the right flank here. These guys are going to advance on A. Do we have any other trenches over here? Yes, we've got 2 more over here. And by the way, troops are cheaper as well at the start of a battle. We've got a cap of 30 units that we can have on the map as well. So just something to be aware of. All right, let's... I don't plan on leaving these guys in the trenches the whole time. The question is, do I think if they're going to attack me? Because if they're going to attack me, then I need more troops than I have on the map at the moment. We've got 10. The weird thing is these trenches are like behind the objective. Why? So you can build trenches fairly easily. You can see it's only costing us 2 to build these very basic trenches. These trenches will not provide a whole lot of cover because they're very basic. Also, I'm assuming these houses will get destroyed and flattened by artillery as time goes on. And you can see the little triangles represent the direction that the trench is facing. It doesn't seem to have a good way to like link these trenches. Like there's a gap here. I guess we could put a machine gun nest here if we needed to, which is an option here. You've got MG nests. They do cost 30 supply though. All right, so we've sort of built a trench line, if you will, across the whole front, at least from right to left on this map. So that could come in handy in future battles.
Verstärkung macht Meldung. Verstärkung bereit. Wir sind eingetroffen und warten auf Befehle.
All right, so we've linked our front with 1 unit in every single trench. Only 1 unit, I believe, can shoot at a time while 1 stays back off the firing line. Again, my first objective is going to be to take, I think, A. That seems perhaps like we'll have the most cover going for that objective. And then we'll go for B perhaps after that. We still have 530 supply down here in the lower left. So let's throw a second unit in some of these other trenches. So maybe we'll go for both A and B simultaneously. All right, so we probably have about maxed out the amount of units that I want to put that are infantry. That leaves me 5 left to 5 additional units. I'm not sure exactly what the range is on this heavy artillery here. You can see we've got light artillery and heavy artillery. Does it show me? Oh, it does. So up in the upper right hand, you can see the range for the artillery. So actually, if we place it here, it'll cover all of A, all of the command trench, and most of B. So this is actually a good location for this heavy artillery unit. It's going to cost 90 supply, which is considerable, but... And it takes up one unit here. So let's actually go ahead and deploy 2 of these guys. Can this guy go a little bit further back? He's still got the range pretty much to reach most of the map. Is there anything past A little bit further back? One of those trenches might be. They also have the command trench. So the command trench needs to be in range. Is this their like little tents or whatever? They're like, hey, we're just hanging out. All right. Not sure I want to put it any further back than this. Does this house get demolished for me to build the artillery? All right. So there's 2 artillery battalions deployed. An observation balloon is so much supply. We'll also put an MG nest in here because we know this is a vulnerable spot. Out of that wood line. I don't have a lot of additional supply, and I'd rather keep some of it for the actual attacks. How far can the light artillery reach? We'll do, and this also limits how many reinforcements I can call in as well. All right, so we've gone heavy on the artillery, I think. 3 artillery units. I've still got 215 supply left. I suppose we could use that for more, those 2 remaining hexes for more infantry. Those 2 remaining spots in our up to 30 units. All right, I'm actually going to go a little bit under strength. I'm not going to bother with the final unit just because I don't... Well, I guess that would be dumb. Can we put them in back by the command trench just to sort of an emergency reserve? All right. So we deployed 27 infantry units and then some support units. Then we go ahead and hit begin battle. We don't have any siege artillery, so we can't do a pre-battle bombardment. Go ahead and pause. We have how long? Do we have a time limit? Oh yeah, 20 minutes up here. All right. So each battle has a time limit, I believe. So you can see the enemy did build a few more trenches, so it looks like they might be trying to sort of spider out and expand their own trench lines. Their trenches seem deeper than mine. Maybe not deeper than mine. All right. This is not the most logical trench line that I can see. They have considerably fewer units on this map, it looks like. The strength is up here on the top. All right, so what can we do with our artillery? We can do a precision barrage and spend 9 supply on that. We also got a little more supply after the deployment phase. We can't do gas or air attack because we haven't unlocked those techs, but we can do a precision barrage with our heavy artillery and a suppression barrage with our light artillery. I'm going to hold off with the suppression barrage with our light artillery because I don't actually know where any enemy machine guns are. Like, that would be an ideal thing to bombard with the enemy, but we don't actually know where anything is. Right, first things first, let's go ahead and build a assault force. So we're going to bring these guys up because they're kind of a reserve. All right, I'm going to need more than 3 to take any of these objectives though, aren't I? I don't know if they have any balloons either. I didn't see any. Right. All right, so I have gotten my troops underway. You can see these guys are coming out of the trenches. These are the very basic trenches. They will grow and get more complex with time. These guys will also die like crazy. Observation balloon would have been really nice. Also, the fact that it's a blizzard is going to make seeing things very difficult. It's nice the game has them kind of illuminate themselves once they are in cover that you can't see them very well. Now, the good thing is if I can't see the enemy, if they don't have trenches, then, or if they don't have balloons, then they can't see me. I don't see any indication of any enemy balloons. Actually, wait a minute. I don't know if that might be a balloon, a car for a balloon. Are there cars? No, there's other cars here randomly. All right, we're getting into position. Let's pause here. Let's get our troops on the right flank into position 2. So we're going to try a simultaneous attack in both the right and left flanks to preserve time. Half game speed, move up into these woods. These guys are probably going to die, but I need to figure out where I should be dropping my arty. Move, boys, move! Regular German infantry. Moving through the woods. No sign of the enemy yet. Just the fiendish trenches. Why are these guys not in the trench? That's confusing. Are they preparing for an attack or something? Anyway, our guys are in the woods and we just shredded that. They're attacking me. Whoa, I did not expect that. Infantry companies, bring extra infantry companies up. Also, we do have artillery, so let's use it. Precision barrage. Oh my god. A lot more than just second precision barrage. I'm dropping close artillery support in front of my men. Oh my god, they're swarming me. All right, well, we just lost one company. Jesus Christ. All right, those guys are surrendering, so we'll drop. This has just turned into a clusterfuck, like, immediately. Need those other artillery pieces back because the enemy is pretty stationary at this point. We're getting overrun. I didn't expect open field fighting. I think we're given more than we're getting, though. We did lose the 2 units on the left. Is the heavy artillery... The cooldown's almost done. All right, here, I think we're good. Think. So we're getting overrun, but just as we're getting overrun, we're dropping additional already right into the heart of several other enemy companies. I'm curious though, as I pause here. First off, let's call in some reinforcements. You can see these guys are now 10 supply points instead of the 2 they were in the pre-battle phase. Alright, so we're calling in those reserves. I'm curious what the enemy actually... So if that's what they have on the left, do we think the right flank here might be empty? Certainly seems possible. And again, I've played this game where the trenches are like in their full glory, if you will, and you have no chance in advancing across no man's land. So this is a very interesting and very different experience for me because we are very much playing this where, you know, the enemy has... I mean, we're fighting in a wood line, right? Like this is not what I expected. All right, they are launching a counterattack and trying to overrun my trenches. So we got the first squad or first company there. We don't have any machine guns on our left flank. All right, they are dropping artillery on me, and I have no dugouts for my men to retreat to. So they are just going to have to sit there and take it. Let's go ahead and check out these trenches where we're advancing. All right, artillery's still dropping on me. These squads are getting chewed up pretty good. Now there are times like where you can, if it was backed by this command trench over here, this is actually a bunker, like a command, like a, what do you call it? I forget what exactly it's called. A dugout where your troops can go and they can survive bombardments. I don't have anything like that. These are just very basic and exposed trenches, so artillery is much more effective against them. All right, let's see what the enemy has on the right. They're still bombarding that one section. Oh shit, there's an MG. Get into cover. Now we're gonna, this is gonna be a little bit Vietnam-esque. We're gonna drop arty on enemy machine guns. And I'm gonna try and advance these guys into the trench while the artillery is hitting these machine guns. It's danger close for sure, but it looks like we got the first battery. All right, so good news. It looks like this trench line is pretty lightly held. We're already taking it. So let's get our troops into these trenches. And our infantry in this trench line just finished off that enemy MG nest. So again, we're attacking where the enemy is very weak. So keep that in mind. This doesn't mean the AI is going to be this weak every time you fight them, but they launched an attack, spent a greater portion of their force on that flank. And now the other flank is they had a couple of machine gun nests, it looks like, trying to hold that objective. But it wasn't obviously enough as we're working our way forward. They do have some additional MG nests here, so I do want to use some arty on that, try and take that out. They committed a reasonable amount of their points, if you will, to MG nests. There's not a dumb idea. Right. You can see we're spending our supply down here. Right, we'll move these guys forward. The green strength, by the way, represents the strength of a unit, the green bar here. The white represents the morale. All right, so we have now taken up this objective point, and as the game is helpfully telling us up here in the upper left, we can reinforce from here. I'm also curious if these images of these soldiers change over time, because that is a very green-faced... That looks like something out of All Quiet on the Western Front. All right, so there's an enemy machine gun nest here. Can we move through the trenches, or are they going to go over the top? I hope they're not going over the top. They should move through the trenches. They can get behind that MG nest and destroy it. I don't see any indication that the rest of my line is being attacked either, by the way, so that's good. Yep, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're throwing their grenades at the MG nest, and they're going to overrun it here. All right. Good. So how much time do we have left? 14 minutes, so we've used about a quarter of our time. The enemy cannot reinforce from this right flank anymore because we've taken the objective. The problem is I don't really have a lot of good firing points here on this flank, I don't think. It's interesting that the trenches are here, but I think those are like maybe communication trenches and not firing steps, because I don't see an option to put anybody there. And the trenches are not facing the right direction for me to do much with them. And so our reinforcements did come in on the left. Let's bring these guys forward into this wood line to threaten the other objective over here over at B. We'll bring forward 4 battalions in the front with 2 in reserve, so 6 total. These guys, we're actually going to go ahead and withdraw these guys. So we're going to order these 2 companies to withdraw. That will free up our pop cap, which is currently 29 out of 30. But in addition to that, it does not count as a defeat with respect to score or objectives. So basically their casualties don't really count in the same way. And so that actually, like, it lessens the national morale hit. And rather than spending more supply to call in more troops, I'm just going to split these 2 units, one of these guys in reserve over here to lengthen the firing line. Oh shit, they're going to try and drop artillery on these guys in the open, so we're going to get them out of the open and let them waste their artillery barrage on an empty wood line. It does make me wonder if they might be launching a counterattack, which makes me a little nervous, because if they do come from the left, my troops are not positioned to shoot at them very well. Also, the enemy did just use their artillery elsewhere. So we're going to kind of see what they've got up this way. You can see their blue strength was lower. It's a little bit higher now, so I think they've called in some reinforcements or perhaps replaced some of their losses. Can we get these 2 battalions into the trench line, or are there enemy troops here? Oh shit. No. Retreat. So this is obviously a little ahistorical of trying to like just blast the enemy MG nests. What just happened down here? Oh, that's the artillery aim. But also, if the enemy had barrage balloons, me just sitting here and waiting for him, well, actually, we already can see they're calling artillery in on my position, so it probably doesn't make sense for me to wait. It makes more sense for me to push forward because these guys will just get obliterated in the wood if I leave them there with this enemy artillery coming down. All right, so we knocked out that enemy machine gun nest. And we're taking the trench lines on the left flank. I haven't seen where the enemy artillery pieces are yet. It must be over on that central position. All right, get these guys in here. The suppression barrage by light artillery prevents the enemy from attacking you effectively, but it doesn't actually do much damage, whereas the heavy artillery precision barrage does a very good job of destroying enemy units. All right, so let's move these guys. That trench probably is our best facing trench to repel an enemy attack. All their control points are ours. We will soon win the day. All right, we have how much longer? 13 minutes? And again, this is very much like very methodical. Reduce 1 point, move down the next line. But I think that's also in large part because we picked a point where the enemy does not have adequate defenses. It's pretty clear at this point the enemy does not have adequate defenses here. I'm assuming there's going to be a fair number of enemy infantry in this center point here, though. So let's get... There's not really a lot of cover for me to use to sort of see what's out here. A balloon would have gone a long way to helping me. That's a communications trench. These are the firing slits up here. Be cool if I could tell them to go into the communication trench. I'm getting shot. I hear it. I don't see it, but I hear it. Where's the enemy? They're back here. Can you make it to the trench line before you die? Yes, you did. Okay, it doesn't seem like the enemy has much in the way of troops here, so I guess maybe we wiped out their infantry. They didn't spend a lot of points on reinforcements or anything like that, so let's go ahead and close in with these enemy units and maybe finish them off. The arty won't survive very well. I don't know where they're shooting at the troops over here. So they saw my guys coming out of the trenches and they opened fire. Those little piles of artillery shells behind the guns is pretty cool. That's a heavy artillery battery. You can tell by the size of the guns, the wheels, the little icon here. All right, so apparently we're using a lot of grenades. Now the enemy can have up to 5 units, or your own troops can also have up to 5 units in the trenches, in the command trench. So that is something to prepare for, or at least maybe that's later. I only see 2 icons there. All right, let's do suppression barrage against the MG while our troops come across no man's land where they're going to be exposed. This is a little bit like if World War I met modern combat in terms of like our ability to just have perfect information and synchronization with our artillery. It's fairly different than the real. Like, I mean, troops did, so for what it's worth, troops did carry wire forward with them so they could communicate back with batteries when the, especially later in the war, when they made it through the initial assault. But those the wires very regularly got cut, either through enemy artillery bombardments cutting the wire, or just through, oh, there's 2 enemy units in here, it looks like. Either through enemy artillery bombardments cutting the wire, or just through, you know, I guess accidents. I don't know. All right, so there's 2 enemy battalions here in the HQ trench. It looks like our attacking units are going to lose. So this is where you'd probably want to like try and withdraw them, although I guess they're in hand-to-hand, so I can't. We destroyed the MG nest, so they're pretty much toast. It's just a matter of getting enough troops in there for the British to surrender. Yep, we defeated the HQ, and now we're just taking it. Good news. So we did lose a reasonable amount of troops, I feel like, but I think we're gonna win this battle, and we'll reduce the enemy's defense of this sector by 1 star. I'm curious if I attack a second time, because you can only attack out of a individual hex once, and a unit can only be involved in an attack once. I'm curious if we can auto-resolve the second attack on this hex. Okay, so let's fast forward here while we take the objective. It's taking a little bit of time. I wonder if they'll call in any reinforcements. I'm not sure where they can call them in, though, given we have all the objective points. I don't think they actually have any reinforcements points. Maybe these little white entry points on the map? I'm not sure. But it doesn't seem like the AI wants to spend points on this this particular battlefield. Again, they didn't have much in the way of reinforcements available to them in the first place. And so we took it in that was a pretty quick battle. Why is this not, is the time not moving? There you go. We captured the HQ. We get more points for that. And that's a victory. A sweep. We have pushed back the enemy and taken ground. People at home will see this as a success, which will hopefully press upon them the need to see the war through until we have achieved our final victory. We're playing on normal difficulty, by the way. All right, so base attack score, replenishment cost is 342 gold to replace our losses. The enemy lost 4,080 men and 5 artillery pieces, as well as these different emplacements. So we got a score of 4,100. We lost 2,500 men in the attack, so 4,000 versus 2,500. Battle honors to those that overwhelm the enemy against all odds. The greater the difference between the player and the enemy scores, the higher the bonus. Life medal granted to those that preserve the lives of their men under command, a measure of the ratio between companies deployed and lost. Perseverance medal granted to those that keep their army morale high. Efficiency medal granted to those that do a lot with a little, a measure of the ratio between percentage of supply cap spent versus the score gained. And total victory medal earned by capturing and holding all control points and command trenches on the map. The enemy only had the efficiency medal, presumably because they did not spend a lot reinforcing. But they do expend 694 gold in order to actually replace their losses for the units that fought. And you can see here's the victory scale. Great victory is on the far left, plus 10 national morale for us, negative 17 for the enemy, or national will. You can see it can go from great victory to major to victory to minor to stalemate to minor loss, loss, major loss, and great loss. We can go ahead and take a look at the battle details and see the units that were deployed. So it does look like a couple of units here. These guys lost all 225 men. These guys had a few left, I suppose. And then most of our troops were perfectly healthy. And we did, oh, these guys were probably the units we withdrew or something to that effect. I'm not sure. Core supplied 450 supply. We spent 586 in battle. Final supply bank cost 136. Is that a net out of the difference? So I guess we didn't expend the supply in our units. We just used the supply depot. All right. So we won a victory at Arras. I probably need to think more strategically about like the direction that we're going to attack and why we're going to attack in certain hexes, because you can certainly fight everywhere. You can't fight everywhere with the supplies you have available to you. And you can see Ross is now 1 hex. They have 1 defensive star left. And so we managed to do that with our troops out of Lille. I don't know if we want to try and attack out of Peronne with our 2 infantry corps. Okay, so if we go with these troops, it is actually predicting a defeat. Interesting. We can spend 600 gold and get another depot here. Will that make a difference? That'll switch it over to stalemate. Okay. So yeah, what do? We don't get any points toward the demoralize them goal against the French because we didn't fight the French. We fought the British, but we gave the British a bloody nose at Arras, and we can see perhaps if we want with our troops at Peronne, which is 2 corps instead of 3. We attacked with 3 last turn. We can see if perhaps we can drive the British back and take that particular objective and maybe open the front up a bit in the north. It's kind of the seam where the French and the British meet. The French are the next hex south. The British are all the hexes to the north. But yeah, that'll be interesting. I don't have, it'd be interesting if it gave me more intelligence about what was here, since we had already fought there. You'd think it would give you some espionage for having fought a battle, but in any event, yeah, so that's going to do it for today's video. We've been going for almost an hour now. This is my first look at The Great War Western Front by Petroglyph Games and published by Frontier Foundries. I think this is a really tremendous game in terms of the ambition behind it. I am, the battle we fought was fairly simplistic. Things get much bigger and more impressive later in the war. So like, you may have looked at them and like, oh, that looked really easy, and you just kind of rolled over them. 1, we're playing on normal difficulty. 2, we strategically picked a point we knew the enemy was weak. At least we thought they were weak. 3, it's 1914, so the enemy defenses are very weak. And 4, the actual tech is very basic as well because it's 1914. So just keep all that in mind. Again, this was basically, I would consider the battle that we just fought almost like a tutorial, right? You're not going to be able to sit out in the middle of no man's land or in those woods later in the war. In fact, those woods won't be there because the battlefield damage that occurs in one battle carries over to the next in each given hex. So we'll see how this campaign goes, but we're going to keep the campaign up. We're going to see if we can win as the Central Powers, and then maybe we'll flip it around and play as the Allies. I'm very excited about this game. I do have some reservations. Like, I'm worried the campaign map may feel a little bit grindy. Like, is there going to be enough in each of these maps to stand them out and make fighting this number of battles interesting? I suppose alternatively on the campaign, you can rely more on auto resolves, but auto resolves rarely seem to do, as you would think, anywhere near as well as a human, and so that kind of takes the appeal out of playing as an auto resolve. At least that's my perception of the estimated results that I've seen so far. In any event, though, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. This is The Great War Western Front. I already said that multiple times. The game is available on the 30th on Steam. That's when it comes out. It'll also be on Epic if you shop over there. But if you do pre-order anywhere from now until then, you will get access to the game starting on the 27th. So today. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Leave your thoughts down below in the description. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.